My name is H.A. Goodman, and I'm an author, columnist, and journalist. And to read my writing and to see my latest CNN appearances and my MSNBC appearances, you can go to hagoodman.com. I'm going to focus this segment on explaining to Hillary supporters or to anyone else my vantage point of Bernie or Bust and why I am and why I believe Bernie or Bust voters should vote for Dr. Jill Stein of the Green Party. I think that's the natural place. I think that's a home for Bernie or Bust voters. And I'm going to also, and I wrote today in the Huffington Post, the article's below. And it was published in the Huffington Post today. I am going to explain the logic behind Bernie or Bust and the logic behind risking a Trump presidency for 4 years. And voting your conscience and voting your value system. I agree 100% with Dr. Cornel West. He was on Bill Maher on Friday, and Bill Maher gave an analogy. Well, you know, you're going in two different directions. One, you're going to hell with Trump, and then you're going to San Francisco with Hillary Clinton, but it's going to take you a longer time than it would if you just went with Bernie. That's the kind of analogy that only somebody who has no clue of why Bernie or Bust exists would give. And I'm no disrespect to Bill Maher, but my point is this. When you look at structural issues, Bernie or Bust is focused on structural issues. So we have an era. For me, it's what drives me, why I love Bernie Sanders, is ending perpetual American counterinsurgency wars, perpetual American military involvement in the Middle East. So we have 5,000 soldiers in Iraq. We're not supposed to be in Iraq anymore. President Obama campaigned against the Iraq war. That helped him win. We have 5,000 soldiers in Iraq right now. We have 10,000 soldiers still in Afghanistan. President Obama promised to end the Afghanistan war. It's still ongoing. We have 5,000 soldiers in Iraq, 10,000 soldiers in Afghanistan. Bernie or Bust is Bernie or Bust because they wanted Bernie Sanders to end American quagmires, to end all this involvement in perpetual quagmires. We have Dr. Jill Stein for that now. Dr. Jill Stein has the same type of foreign policy. She's actually even less hawkish than Bernie. So that's one reason I love Dr. Jill Stein. If you look right now at her platform below, it talks in Peace and Human Rights, talks about a more subdued foreign policy, one that ends perpetual wars. But we can go into it in great detail. So aside from the fact that the election was stolen, that the primary was stolen from Bernie Sanders, that the Wikileaks DNC emails show overt election fraud. I'll get to that in a second. We have on the biggest issues, the President of the United States can't vote on a gun control bill. Trump will never get his border fence, his plan to ban Muslim immigrants. He'll never get that past Congress. So that you don't even have to worry about Trump's craziest schemes. It won't pass Congress, but when you're talking about a president, you're not talking about a person in Congress or a senator or a representative. You're talking about a president who can use the authorization for use of military force. If we have 5,000 soldiers right now in Iraq, Hillary Clinton would increase that number because she is advised by neoconservatives, and I'll read you. She can do that unilaterally. She doesn't need Congress. So Congress is already going to try to impeach her, but she can go ahead and increase the troop number in Afghanistan. She wanted to. In the memoirs of Secretary Robert Gates, she wanted to add 10,000 more Americans than he did. She was more hawkish than Robert Gates was. He stated this in his own memoir during the Afghanistan surge. This is a very important one. And when I talk about Dr. Jill Stein, I'm focused on her foreign policy. That's what a lot of issues with the Green Party and people, gravitate towards the Green Party for other things like economic justice, civil rights, I'm focused on foreign policy. Their foreign policy to me is infinitely better than mainstream Democrats and especially Republicans. And they're merging now with Hillary Clinton. So one of my big reasons, if you're Bernie or bust, you don't want Republicans and Democrats to merge into one. This is also what a person like Bill Maher, what most people don't understand. You can't have Republicans or you can't have Democrats just as hawkish, just as militant as the neoconservatives who advised Bush and Cheney. I mean, Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld. And you wouldn't vote for Hillary Clinton. If you're watching this, you wouldn't vote for Hillary Clinton if she were advised by Cheney or Rumsfeld. You're getting the same type of people with the neocons advising Clinton. I'll read that in a second. But when you look at, and this is under Jill Stein's platform, and the U.S. role as the world's arms supplier. We're the number one supplier of weapons to the Middle East. The United States is the number one supplier of weapons to the Middle East. This is a big problem. We have a president, Hillary Clinton, who, Mother Jones, Hillary Clinton oversaw U.S. arms deals to Clinton Foundation donors. I'll read you. In 2011, the State Department cleared, this is Mother Jones. In 2011, the State Department cleared an enormous arms deal led by Boeing, a consortium of American defense contractors would deliver $29 billion worth of advanced fighter jets to Saudi Arabia, despite concerns over the kingdom's troublesome human rights record. In the years, they're beheading people. It was like the 100th person with their head chopped off. Do you think Hillary Clinton says anything? Do you think Hillary Clinton would ever bring up women's rights in Saudi Arabia? No. That's another one of the millions of reasons not to vote for Clinton. In the years before Hillary Clinton became Secretary of State, Saudi Arabia had contributed $10 million to the Clinton Foundation, and just 2 months before the jet deal was finalized, Boeing donated $900,000 to the Clinton Foundation. So, right before they get $29 billion, Saudi Arabia, they donated it was actually 10 to 25 million, and Boeing donated $900,000 to the Clinton Foundation. The Saudi transaction is just one example of the nations and companies that had donated to the Clinton Foundation seeing an increase in arms deals while Hillary Clinton oversaw the State Department. So Jill Stein doesn't have a foundation. Bernie Sanders doesn't have a foundation. One reason never to vote for Hillary Clinton is that she has a foundation that is now being, the IRS is now investigating it. The Clinton Foundation donors get preferable treatment. We know there's a Chicago commodities trader who was put on a nuclear advisory board because he gave money to the Clinton Foundation. It's insane. So I'm trying to kind of be more subdued this segment and kind of give reasons to people who have no understanding of why Bernie or Bust exists. I know I'm a little bit all over the place, but there's so many things to talk about. Ending the U.S. role as the world's arms supplier is one of the biggest issues. If Jill Stein is for that, and we know Bernie Sanders obviously was for that, and Hillary Clinton has a foundation that actually funnels in money and then suddenly sees Saudi Arabia get a giant weapons deal, that's a huge problem. We already know she was influenced as Secretary of State. Now she could be influenced as president. Thank you, James Comey. Just on a side note, in my last segment, today or yesterday, Hillary Clinton said that James Comey, basically she called James Comey a liar of the FBI. And she said that her responses have been truthful. And that Comey essentially agreed with her. She sent and received classified information as Secretary of State. She sent and received information marked classified. She used multiple private servers that were unencrypted that should never have stored top secret special access program intelligence. If you don't care, you're voting for Hillary Clinton. This is a non-starter for me as well. Jill Stein would never need a private server. Now, if you look at Jill Stein's foreign policy, end the destructive U.S. economic and military intervention into the affairs of sovereign nations. Such interventions serve the interests of multinational corporations and global capitalism over the interests of the vast majority of citizens of the world, of these nations. When you have a candidate, now Bernie didn't articulate this view exactly the way that Jill Stein is. But when you have a candidate like Jill Stein, who is saying no more weapons deals, no more, or at least she didn't say that. She said, stop being the world's #1 arms supplier. We are the #1 supplier of weapons to the Middle East. The Middle East is a more chaotic place. There's ISIS everywhere. Okay, ISIS in Iraq, ISIS in Syria, ISIS in Libya. Who pushed for the bombing of Libya, by the way? Hillary Clinton. All her decisions are horrible. This is also one reason to vote for Jill Stein, because Clinton is not going to get you there. There is no there with Hillary Clinton in terms of ending ending our position as the world's greatest weapons supplier. There is no. She is going to be advised, Hillary Clinton, by neoconservatives. So when Jill Stein talks about ending these interventions, this is an Intercept article. Quote, Robert Kagan and other neocons are backing Hillary Clinton. Now, if you're Bill Maher, or if you're a person who's just voting for Hillary Clinton because you think that Trump is the devil or that he'll send us to hell, the neoconservatives hate Trump. Neoconservatives hate Bernie Sanders. They hate Jill Stein. They love Hillary Clinton. Game over. Case closed. You are a president. Whenever you hear that dumb, stupid, ridiculous statistic, well, they agreed 97% of the time, or 90% of the time, that's because 10% or 5% or the 3% they're leaving out is the authorization for use of military forces, the fact that Bernie Sanders is opposed to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, Jill Stein is opposed to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, Jill Stein wants to end the war on drugs. Hillary Clinton would never even try to touch that. Bernie Sanders, Jill Stein also want to end perpetual interventions militarily. Hillary Clinton will increase those. And now I'll read you. Robert Kagan and other neocons are backing Hillary Clinton. As Hillary Clinton puts together what she hopes will be a winning coalition in November, many progressives remain weary, but she has the war hawks firmly behind her. I would say, quote, I would say all Republican foreign policy professionals are anti-Trump. Leading conservative Robert Kagan told a group gathered around him groupie style at a foreign policy professionals for Hillary fundraiser. I would say the majority of people in my circle will vote for Hillary. When Robert Kagan and other neoconservatives are voting for Hillary, that's a big, huge problem. Because you now have the same people who advised Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld advising a Democrat. This is another, you're not going to that destination you want. If you don't care about foreign policy, maybe. Most Hillary supporters don't care about perpetual wars. That's why they got on me for writing an article about Rand Paul in 2014, which was only an anti-perpetual war article. It wasn't because I'm a libertarian. It wasn't because on social issues, I'm a libertarian. I'm not. I'm a progressive. But when you have perpetual wars, and by the way, Ralph Nader and Glenn Greenwald also had similar positions back then. But when you have perpetual wars where the United States has 5,000 soldiers in Iraq, 10,000 soldiers in Afghanistan. President Obama has sent Americans off to Syria, American ground troops. You need a president who says enough of this. Hillary Clinton says more of this. Despite the catastrophic effects of that war, the Iraq War, Kagan insists at last week's fundraiser that the U.S. foreign policy over the last 25 years has been an extraordinary success. No, it has not. U.S. foreign policy has not been a success. It's been an absolute failure. Terrorism has increased fivefold since 2001. Jill Stein, Bernie Sanders, as president, have the power unilaterally or have the power within the executive branch to stop this madness, to say, you know what, we're not going to send more Americans back. And I don't care if I'm pressured to do so. I'm not going to do so. Hillary Clinton has no problem sending Americans off to war. Hillary Clinton also is advised by Henry Kissinger. I can go. Kissinger, in addition to the fact that he is Christopher Hitchens' made the case of him being a war criminal, that he bombed Cambodia, laid the groundwork for the Khmer Rouge because of the bombing of Cambodia. You can look at a Politico article. Yes, Nixon scuttled the Vietnam peace talks. He sabotaged the Vietnam peace talks, Richard Nixon. So, and this is a fact now. Did Richard Nixon's campaign or Henry Kissinger scuttled helped sabotage the peace talks, and he helped do so for Richard Nixon? Did Richard Nixon's campaign conspire to scuttle the Vietnam War peace talks on the eve of the 1968 election to capture him the presidency? Absolutely, says Tom Charles Houston, author of a comprehensive, still secret report he prepared as White House aide to Nixon. In one of 10 oral histories conducted at the National Archives opened last week, Houston says, quote, "There's no question that Nixon campaign aides sent a message to South Vietnamese government promising better terms if it obstructed the talks." This is one of the many examples of why you don't want Henry Kissinger advising your president. So I'll continue. You don't want a person, if you're against a Trans-Pacific Partnership, this is also within the powers of a president. You can push for trade deals or multilateral agreements. 45 times Secretary Clinton pushed for the trade deal she now opposes. She's a liar. So in addition to using racism against Barack Obama, in addition to being militant and hawkish and advised by neoconservatives and advised by Henry Kissinger, and by the way, close to half of all the American soldiers who died on the Vietnam War were after 1968. Kissinger helped sabotage the Paris peace talks. That's just one of many reasons why you don't want Kissinger anywhere near a president in the White House. In addition to all the other things that he did that would lead him to be a war criminal in the mind of, in the viewpoint of Christopher Hitchens and many other people. 45 times, okay, the former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, as a candidate for the Democratic presidential nomination seems reluctant to take a firm position on an issue dividing her party. She wouldn't even take a position. But 45 times, Secretary Clinton, pushed the trade deal she now opposes. This is CNN. We know from Tim Kaine that she's going to push for the TPP. So really, Bernie or bust. There's so many issues, and I was kind of all over the place. But if you watch this segment and you say, well, what about the Voting Rights Act? Well, Jill Stein is pushing in her platform to fix the Voting Rights Act that Congress hasn't even tried to fix since 2013. So restore Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act, requiring preclearance by the Attorney General. Do you think Hillary Clinton, or do you think the Democrats in Congress have made this a priority before the election? No. 2013 was the Supreme Court decision that gutted the Voting Rights Act. What have Democrats in Congress been doing? Certainly not trying to restore Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act. You can go on. Look at the platform and the war on drugs. Hillary Clinton will not even touch that. Okay, Jill Stein wants to legalize marijuana. It's a congressional issue. Hillary Clinton won't even legalize marijuana, won't even decriminalize marijuana. So, or at least up until recently, she wouldn't decriminalize marijuana. So the point is, sure, there's a whole lot to like about Jill Stein when it comes to economic issues, when it comes to social issues. I'm looking at foreign policy, and I'm saying that with Bernie Sanders and Jill Stein, you have a foreign policy that's completely different from Hillary Clinton or Trump. Trump is actually less hawkish to me, and he's against the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And nothing he says regarding banning immigrants or regarding deporting immigrants or a wall or banning Muslims, nothing gets past Congress. And he's less hawkish than Clinton. And he is not a cybersecurity risk. Of course, Jill Stein is not, and Bernie Sanders is not. Hillary Clinton, there's so many scandals, so many investigations, so many bad decisions, from Iraq to Libya to Honduras to owning a private server. The judgment is poor, horrible. She's advised by Kissinger. She's advised by neocons. You can't get a more, you're going to hell. You're going to, if you want to use the analogy, you're going to a cooler place in hell, perhaps, than Trump, even if you take Trump versus Clinton. I mean, Clinton versus Trump. With Jill Stein, in terms of foreign policy, in terms of the authorization for use of military force, in terms of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, in terms of preventing more soldiers from being sent. We have 5,000 in Iraq right now. We have 10,000 still in Afghanistan. We have American soldiers, special forces in Syria. We have Americans fighting alongside and advising Iraqi troops on the ground. This is dangerous. The wars were supposed to end. Republicans are saying, well, we got to be there for 20, 30 more years. Hillary Clinton's agreeing with them. This is a huge problem. It stops with my vote. And hopefully it stops with your vote, if you're Bernie or bust, or if you're for Dr. Jill Stein. So people have asked, well, hey, what do you like about Jill Stein? There's a whole, I like almost the entire platform. What gets me to vote for Stein is her similarity in things that I like even better in some ways with Bernie Sanders regarding war, foreign policy, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, ending the war on drugs, demilitarizing the police. Why hasn't Hillary Clinton made that an issue? Because she takes prison lobbyist money. Why does she take prison lobbyist money? I'm never voting for a Democrat that accepts prison lobbyist money, especially when her husband started mass incarceration or made it infinitely worse. I'm probably going to do another segment, a little bit all over the place, but there's a lot of issues here. And if you've watched this and you're a Hillary supporter, you're going to get the Trans-Pacific Partnership with Hillary Clinton. You're going to get an increase in militancy and wars with Hillary Clinton. If you're a Hillary supporter and you have anybody, and you know anybody in the military, or you have family members in the military, she will likely send them off to war. And I say this with all due respect to you. This is one of the big reasons I do not want Hillary Clinton. We have had enough Americans who have died in wars. Close to 7,000 Americans have died. We have a horrendous suicide epidemic that's still an issue in our country for veterans. We have close to over 50,000 Americans who have been wounded in combat. 1 million American veterans from both wars have been injured. Half to two-thirds of all the Americans killed and wounded in Iraq and Afghanistan were the victims of IED blasts. ISIS has increased. Terror has increased in the Middle East. And now we have Hillary Clinton advised by Kissinger and Bush's neoconservatives. No. She can actually use the authorization for use of military force like a video game. Okay? Very dangerous for the world and especially for our country. This is why you're not going in the direction you want in a slower manner or not as fast. You're going in a completely opposite direction from Jill Stein and Bernie Sanders. Completely opposite. I'll do another segment on this. Thank you so much. In terms of war and foreign policy, and in terms of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, in terms of demilitarizing the police, in terms of ending the war on drugs, I'm voting for Dr. Jill Stein of the Green Party. Hillary Clinton and Trump would get you almost the same direction. Thank you so much.